Welcome to the Michigan Golfer Show. Join us each week as we explore the people, the places, and the events that shape our great game.
Hi there, this is Jack Berry at the beautiful Boyne Highlands golf course at the Heather Golf Course at the 100th Michigan Amateur, and we're fortunate today to have a five-time champion who can remember way back when he won the first one down at Country Club of Jackson, Glenn Johnson from Grosse Ile. Good morning.
Good morning, Jack. Happy to be here for my 100th appointment. Well, I'll tell you what, it's been a long time since we started way down there in Jackson, and of course, one of my favorite stories is the guy I played down there was Pete Green, who at that time was, I think, 15 years old. And I was lucky enough to beat him, and sure enough, next year I get him at Charlevoix, and I was lucky enough to beat him in, I think, the third extra hole. He seemed to get much bigger and better in 1 year. And I'm happy I got him when he was so young, because he's a much tougher threat now.
Well, you loved match play, right? You're such a great match play player all through the years.
Well, I had a lot of fun with match play. I never did anything to disrupt the guy, but I had a lot of little tricks that I had fun with. And if I'm playing a young guy on the first tee, I would always stand far enough away from him, but I'd stare him down while he's addressing the ball. And he would look up at me like, is my grip bad, or what's that old man looking at? And I had more fun with him, and it, without saying anything to a lot of them, you could have a lot of fun. And I also had a lot of interesting experiences, and 1 year we played, I think, 11 holes at Charlevoix because of rain in the first round, and we're playing, we had about 6 holes to go, and I was playing this young kid, and I was getting a little concerned, and he marked his ball on this green, and then when he put the ball back down, he put it a foot in front of his marker. Not only that, he left the marker there. I said, whoa, time out here. What are we doing here? Well, I'm just marking my ball. I said, well, the marker's still there. Do you mind if we just put the ball where the marker is and get on with this game? And when he got in after the match was over, he said, boy, that guy's no fun to play with.
Rules? What are rules? Now, you've won several times at Country Club of Jackson before coming up here to the north, and you were kind of the king of the north. You had the most colorful clothes, and you were the most colorful player.
Well, I had fun with the clothes, and
we can see that.
Well, this sweater was given to me. This is some fancy sweater made in Australia. It's one of a kind. But getting on that clothes bid, the most interesting time was down in Jackson 1 year, and all the young guys who were 15 years younger than me, they were hanging around talking to me about the clothes I was wearing. I was wearing bright clothes, and they said, why don't you just come out in some plain outfit, black or white or something? So I was playing one of them the next day, and I came out with this outfit, red and blue and black and white, and when he came out to the tee to see me, I had him 2 down without even starting. He was so upset. But
well, you always brought a full wardrobe, as I recall.
Well, I hated to play 2 rounds in a row without cleaning up, so I always took a shower. If I won in the morning and played in the afternoon, I always then took a shower and changed clothes. And of course, that attracted a little attention, not on purpose, but I always liked to dress a little brightly, shall we say. And I've had a fantastic run in this thing. I don't know how many years I played in it, but it has to be 45. Someday I'm going to check that out. I don't know how many years.
Well, when you first played, you were kind of new to the game, weren't you? You didn't play an awful lot until you got out of service and into college?
Well, I played, I think, one round my senior year in college. They asked me to play for the fraternity. But I didn't, when I got out of school, and then I went in the Air Force for 3 years, and when I got out, I kind of lost track of sports, so I thought, well, what can I do with my time? So that's when I started playing golf, and I lived about 200 yards from the practice tee at Grosse Ile, so it was very handy, and I picked up the game fairly early, and I remember I came up to qualify up here in Charlevoix, and they had a million young kids up here, and I didn't play very well. But since then, things have gone very well, and of course, I love the North. And I first started coming up here when I was a camp counselor. After my freshman year at college, I was a camp counselor up here on Burt Lake.
We have to say that it was at Michigan State College then, but university now.
Well, yeah. Well, it's interesting. We had 4,000 people at school when I was there. It was just a baby school compared to now. Now they got 50,000 people, totally different.
That's very true. I walk around there now the years after I graduated, then it's awesome.
Well, State's a great school, and I wanted to go out for golf there, but I wasn't good enough. But I did swim on the freshman swimming team, and then I'm playing football, and I was lucky enough to be the starting quarterback my senior year, and we had some wonderful trips. Of course, at that time, when we played Santa Clara, it was 2 nights in the train out and back, and then the last game I played was in the Orange Bowl against the University of Miami, and we took the train down and back. There were no flights at that time. And the funny thing about football, people don't realize now, when I was playing, they only allowed you to make 1 substitution per quarter. So if you were starting quarterback or starting at any position, you played usually 50 minutes in the game.
Were you a little bit tired at the end of that?
Well, it's a totally different situation than it is now. When they put them in one play, take them out the next play, and they go nuts trying to substitute. But they made so few substitutions, and if you were first string, you played 50 minutes a game.
How did you get good at golf? I mean, it took you a while to get started in it. I mean, you certainly picked it up in a hurry.
Well, I worked hard on it. It's a funny thing. You can pick up golf in a hurry. You can get to about 80 by yourself pretty quick, and then you got to go and talk to somebody and get some help. But I worked so hard at it that it came quite quickly to me, and I got lucky. And the more you win, the more confident you are, and the better you're supposed to get.
Tell us about some of the famous people that you've played with over the years. I remember the United States Open out at Pebble Beach, and you managed to play with some pretty good guys in the practice rounds.
Well, in the Grosse Ile Invitational, somebody had invited Arnold Palmer up. Arnold was in the Coast Guard in Cleveland, and they brought him up to Grosse Ile, and that's the first time I met him. He was about 18, and I got to know him quite well, and if he and I were in the same tournament, I always played a practice round with him. In the last U.S. Open I played in San Francisco, I called him up, and we played together Monday and Tuesday out there, and the crowds were immense. And not for me, but for him. But Arnold could still play. And I remember we played Monday and Tuesday, and then I played with Jack Zinn, who I forget who else we played with that day. And then I played with Trevino in the practice round, and Trevino was all blow and no go. He had funny material for about 12 holes, and he went completely dry.
Wasn't he the defending champion that year, or something like that? He wasn't sure that he was going to play. He'd been sick and showed up. And
Yeah, he played the first 9 holes with a mask on his face. I don't know, to protect his breathing or something, but I don't think he played well that tournament, as I recall.
Now, what about when you were going to match Charles Cose's 6 victories in the Michigan Amateur, and you happened to meet Melvin Bud Stevens in the final? What happened there?
Well, we were we were playing really well, and our match was even. And on the 17th hole, which I never had any trouble with, I hit a bad pull shot down. I bogeyed the hole, went 1 down, and he beat me on the last hole. And as I walked off the green, I pulled my shoe up, and all the spikes had come out of this shoe. I had saved these shoes for a great big match. And here, as I hit on 17, my left foot slipped, and I hit the shot that possibly cost me another win.
You didn't tighten them? New shoes, and you didn't tighten them?
Well, you know, now they're all stuck to the shoe, but then you had to tighten them out. If you wanted to change them, you had to unscrew them. But that was very discouraging when that happened, because to beat Bud Stevens, which I never did, was very hard to do. He was the hardest player to play around because he was all business, and he hit it so far. But I had
A little bit farther than you?
I was not a long hitter. There were two or three guys that hit it really far, but at that time it wasn't that important. People weren't concentrating on how far you hit it. It's where you hit it. And one of the interesting stories, and I can't remember his name, but he was an outstanding college player, and I beat him. And his dad came up to me and after the game was over, and he said, "I got to thank you," he said. "You did something I've been trying to do for 5 years." He said, "You brought my son down to earth." He thought he could beat the world, and I had knocked him out, and the father was very thankful. Very unusual situation.
How many times did you win the championship at Grosse Ile?
15. The competition wasn't that great. Ray Palmer was my biggest competitor, but I won it 15 times, and I was very pleased with that, because at one time we had some good players there.
Well, Ray was, United States senior amateur champion?
Yeah, he won that. Ray was a good player, but he couldn't get his game out across the bridge, although he had one good year in the state amateur. And then he and I were both beaten by some guy that worked for the railroad. Do you remember who that was? An old guy, can't remember, but he beat us both and took Grosse Ile right out of the tournament.
Well, you had a pretty fine career as a senior player, too. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, you don't get any publicity as a senior player, and I did win the Eastern Seniors 5 times. I won the North and South, and I won about 5 big senior tournaments, which was very hard to do at the time, because these guys all are good players, and you get all the vice presidents out of the banks who can't play while they're working, and all of a sudden they come on the scene, and they're really good, but they have no amateur history. And I enjoyed playing in the senior tournaments. A lot of people don't. Pete Green never played in many senior tournaments, and Chuck Kosius seemed to play most of his tournaments overseas. I know he played in one tournament, and they give him great credit for it, but the problem was he decided that in England they have an off day. They play Monday, Tuesday, and then they give them Wednesday off and play the final round on Thursday. Well, Kosius decided that he didn't want to hang around, so he played on the off day and had a marker going with him, and they gave him the tournament. And Ray Palmer, who was there, and one other guy was a damn ad, he left the tournament. Did you know that?
No, I didn't know that. Well, you and Chuck had a few matches, didn't you?
Well, Chuck was a very unusual fellow. The matches I had with Chuck were in the Red Run Invitation. Bill Prue, my business partner at the time. And I remember the first time I played courses with Bill, he kind of looked at me on the first tee and he's, I think I'll give this kid a lesson. And he birdied the first 5 holes. I remember that. And would you believe that Prue and I beat him, and he was really upset. Chuck Kosas didn't like to lose anything. And he always had a partner that was a lousy player. He didn't want his partner to help him at all. And he was upset. As a matter of fact, if the partner won the hole and he was out of it. But Chuck was a very unusual guy, tremendous competitor, and never talked very much to anybody.
He was very, very silent. He was a Tiger Woods type instead of the Rory McIlroy type.
Well, he was a great player, and it's a funny thing. I remember we're playing in the Open qualifying at Oakland Hills one day, and he never took his clothes off and changed till he found out what the weather was going to be. And there were times when the weather was bad and he thought it might affect his playability that day. He wouldn't even try and play. He was so proud of his record, winning the Michigan Amateur, I think, every time he played in it. And he protected that.
Well, it was like the Michigan medal play. He every time that he played in it, he won it.
Yeah, he was a great player, and I finished second to him at Western in the Michigan medal one year, and that's as close as I ever got to him. But he seemed to have a special technique because his swing wasn't that great.
Well, he was a very strong stroke player, and I think that you certainly are best known for being such a terrific match player that you could get it up and down, and just you must have enjoyed that.
Well, I worked very hard on the short game because, you know, the average good player hit around 14 greens, and I figured if I get it up and down on 3 of the other 4, I'd score pretty well. But there was something about match play. It was highly competitive, and I really enjoyed the psychology involved in those tournaments, which wasn't there in the medal play by itself. And it was fun watching the reaction of your opponent and what he got upset about, and it was a great time in that match play.
Well, tell us a little bit about here at Boyne. You have quite a history with Everett Kircher and starting a pretty good tournament up here.
Well, I started coming up here when I became a camp counselor at Camp Algonquin. And it was after my freshman year at Michigan State. And of course, golf wasn't big at all. I mean, I can't remember where they had a golf course. They had one in Charlottesville, I guess, but golf wasn't any kind of a deal at that time. But coming up here was, in my opinion, the most beautiful area around. And then when we got into golf, I was up here all the time, and Everett, of course, was interested in golf, but he didn't know anything about it, and he'd brainwash everybody he could, and I suggested that we start this tournament up here because it was Deadsville up here after Labor Day. So we started that thing. I think this is going to be our 35th year, and it's been very successful, and it's filled the hotel up Labor Day weekend, and they enjoy it, and of course some of the players have come up here in the fall.
How many players do you get in that event?
Well, we have to hold it to about 90 because we have a shotgun, and we want the shotgun to be played fast and the last day. And it's a terrific tournament because if the guy wants to play with a friend of his, we set it up that way. And we first started with everybody played in one big group, but then we modified it and made 3 different groups by age classification, and that seemed to work out a lot better. So now we're getting older guys, medium guys, and young guys, and it's a great 3-day event, Labor Day weekend.
Now, of all the courses up here, you've played them all. What's your favorite?
My favorite's the one we're sitting on right now. The Heather. I think it's an incredible golf course and beautiful. All of them are good, but I like this the best. And of all the courses up here, I think it is number 1.
What do you like about it?
Well, it's natural. I mean, there's nothing built around it. They don't try to squeeze houses in. They got a few houses, but very few on all, matter of fact, on all the courses up here. And the courses in the major cities, when they start out, they have no houses, and they get done, they're all full of them. And I think it's just a very great natural place.
Well, Everett, you're right there. Everett did not want houses on his golf course.
Well, he didn't want ducks either. He wanted geese. And so...
Unfortunately, those Canada geese.
Yeah, well, there aren't any geese there anymore because they've got these fake white swan that they've anchored out here in these lakes, and the geese don't come around anymore. And I think Everett's turning over in his grave thinking about that his son has chased all the geese out.
Well, they certainly had, they seemed like they had thousands of them out there.
Now, you know what they've done, I don't know if you've paid any attention about on the lake here in front of the 18th green, they got wires all over the lake so they won't stay in here. And they just don't want them around because they dirty up the fairways, and they're eating a lot of stuff they shouldn't be eating.
That's right, and distributing it. We've been talking with Glenn Johnson, 5-time Michigan amateur champion and one of the truly great living legends in golf in Michigan, and always so enjoyable to talk to him, and he's such a terrific guy and always very, very colorful. Thanks, Glenn.
Thank you, Jack.